He's got the goods, the bollocks, the testes to ride with Dementus.
Let's go. No, I'm eating my food.
Wait, Wilson?
Who's asking? Is that supposed to be scary? Pegging isn't new for me, friendo, but it is for Disney.
Make some noise!
This place gives me the creeps.
Stop. I did not kill him.
That's not the point.
Well, that's illegal. You have to be willing to do anything to anyone to win.
Top 3 films of the year as recommended by yours truly, Kelaru Fulton. Right, rules of the game for this year. We are looking at films that we have seen in the UK and have launched in the UK this year. That's a good caveat to have because some top contenders for Best Film of 2024 are coming in January in the UK. Films like Maria with Angelina Jolie or The Brutalist or September 5th, they're all coming in January. So this top does not include those. This top is as of end of December 2024. So without further ado, Mr. Basil, let's do your top 3. Let's start with the bottom one, number 3 for the year. Which one was it?
Yeah, so number 3 for me is a big one. The Substance. It had to be on the list somewhere. I just didn't really quite know where to put it. But this movie, I mean, me and you alone, Alex, we're always referencing it. It's already iconic in its nature and in its genre, and it's one of these thought-provoking, pretty disgusting, let's be honest, but exactly kind of perfectly done, really. You know what I mean? It's a moviegoer's film, and it isn't for everyone, and that's exactly why it's on the list, because you don't want it to be for everyone. You know, this film is like the catalyst against, kind of just like run-of-the-mill Sunday viewing watching, which is just too, the film world is too plighted with recently. So that's why for me The Substance has to be on the list, because it's just a rebellion against run-of-the-mill films. So that's why it's on there.
Yeah.
And what about you, Alex, for your number 3?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go with Dune Part 2 because I think when it comes to cinematic experience, that's the definition of cinematic experience. Besides the fact that it just blows out of the water any other sci-fi genre, that a film that came out this year and raises the standards of a good sci-fi. It also has a heart. The story is very well and easy to follow, even though it's a fairly complicated story with machinations between these families running Arrakis and all of that, and has some spectacular action sequences, some really good acting. The soundtrack is ticked off. So every single thing that is this reminded me a little bit of watching The Lord of the Rings and that spectacle and awe, while at the same time having heart. And that just went straight up to top 3 for me. So yeah, Dune 2, very good. I think we can still see it on Sky in the UK or rent it on Prime. So that's always good to have available. But let's go with number 2 now, Baz. Which one was yours?
It's kind of similar to number 3. I've gone with Kinds of Kindness. So obviously Yorgos Lanthimos, with his Poor Things previously, but this one coming afterwards. It's just awkwardly good. It's very different. You've pretty much got 3 movies in one, each thought provoking, each kind of philosophical in its nature. It gets the mind thinking, and for me it was again, it's a film that I wouldn't take all my friends to see. I'd take the ones that are also interested in films like me, and it gave me and you a really good conversation when we were reviewing this. And it's just very brave to put 3 storylines that are not even really that much connected in its entirety at all in one film, and get a great bunch of actors and cram them all in, and it just kind of worked. And to be honest, it's one of those films that I need to rewatch again, I think. So that's why it gets number 2 on my list.
Yeah, it's a little bit cheating, Baz, to be honest. You've got 3 films in one.
I know, yeah, it is a little bit, to be truthfully honest. But yeah, it definitely deserves a place, number 2. What about yourself, Alex? What comes in at number 3? Sorry, number 2.
Number two for me was Civil War, Alex Garland's latest. That left a mark a little bit on me when I saw it. I believe it was in March, April we saw it. Very good, very, I mean, this is everybody was thinking this is going to be so political, so divisive and all of it, but actually the film does a really good job staying neutral, and that literally matches the theme of the film, which is journalists, photographers that are journalists and recording history, almost like that's the vibe of the film. It's not real, it's fiction, but it feels like you're watching a documentary almost, and that's the aim of the film. Very realistic, very well acted, and it was just a joy to watch, and I keep thinking about it consistently, especially in an election year. So well done to Alex Garland for delivering such a masterclass. And right back at you, Baz, with the top film of the year. What was that one for you?
So difficult choice, obviously. There's a lot of contenders for me, but I think ultimately Anatomy of a Fall hits the mark. If you look at it in terms of in terms of acting, even soundtrack, emotion shown on screen, script writing, for me it just has everything, and I cared for the characters, and ultimately it put you in the shoes of the characters and asked the question, what would you do? And it was just interesting. It's very, very interesting. So for me that gets number one. I was almost quite surprised. I was looking through the potential candidates for me, what could be number one, and that one just shone out. If you're talking all rounder, there's other films that have got specialities in one particular department. It might be cinematography, or it might be soundtrack, but Anatomy of a Fall has got the full package for me, so that holds number one.
Wow, that is truly a cinematic experience. I call the Dune cinematic experience, but that also is equivalent on a smaller scale, but as impactful as Agreed. Yeah, that was very good. To me, I think this was a year that was, for me, I would like to celebrate courage this year, and that the most crazy courage that we could see as a film this year was The Substance. So that comes at number one for me. I would recommend that to anybody, be it a friend, enemy, or in the middle, or a parent. Anybody should go and see this film, just because it had the space, the breathing space, to get in the cinemas and be seen by so many people, and actually starting to pick up some awards chat around it, which is amazing to see, because it's such a bold film. Probably if it wasn't released in the cinemas, would have probably fizzled out or be really hard to find and get distribution for it. But it's also a critique of the society and the standards that we have in regards to beauty these days. It's very well acted, has symbolism in there, and it just keeps you guessing, and it literally doesn't really care if it's going to be critiqued or not, because that last 40 minutes is essentially a whipping of the audience, and
yes,
I'm happy to take the whipping, because that's bravery. that's a courage. That's courage from a director and from somebody who put money to produce this. So absolutely number one there. But let's talk a little about the ones that slightly went under the radar, or the gems maybe. Do you have one of that during the year, Baz?
So I've got a couple. For me, Civil War, for me, just didn't quite make the top three. I know it's obviously in yours, but I thoroughly enjoyed that film. But I think it's 50% the ending, and then 50% almost of just too high expectations of me going into the cinema. I did think it'd be better than it was. It's a great film. It nearly made it in my top three, but it just, for me, it went under the radar a little bit, so I couldn't really quite nail it on.
Yeah. But I mean, it was hard when we talked about what the gem is. It was hard to pick one, because in my runner-up to the top three, I had Kinds of Kindness. But I think the one that did, I don't know, it's a weird film for me to put it in as a gem, because it got a little bit of publicity, is Godzilla -1 for me.
Sure. Great film.
Yeah, it felt like a gem, which is why I put it in there, because it's not a monster film at all. The name says it's a monster film, but it's a story. It's a human story. That it looks at what humans do when they know that catastrophe is around the corner, which is represented by Godzilla, or can be represented by the atomic bomb, which is what the concept of Godzilla in the first place, when it was created 50 years ago, 60 years ago, was that this Godzilla represents the atomic bomb. And it's like that, this comes back to those roots. And I said, that's exactly what it was done. Besides the fact that it was done on a cheap budget and looks excellent, you don't even notice. And you can, it's also still available on Netflix. I actually watched the black and white version on Netflix, which is looking
really
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing to see.
Is that Godzilla -1 just simply in monotone,
in black and white? Yeah.
Fantastic,
it's
fantastic.
very beautiful to look at. Yeah.
I think also just just a quick mention as well, maybe for Piano Lesson as well. That's more recent, obviously, but that's a film that's made a mark on me.
Good acting
but just. Yeah, just moving on from that, Alex. Do you think there's any films that maybe our viewers would save time by not watching that has been released in the last year?
Well, yeah. I mean, we've seen one together, and then we've seen a couple of that we just said don't bother. The one that we've seen together is, what was the horror one in the forest called? The Outsiders? Was it The Outsiders?
No, it was called Those Who Watch, The Watchers, was it? I think
The Watchers or something like that. Oh my god,
I think it's The Watchers by M. Night Shyamalan. So again, good director. But I think controversial director could probably be more applicably said to him. Yeah, but no, didn't have any substance, that film, did it? That's the
correct.
problem.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, but the one that I would advise against spending hard-earned money on is Megalopolis. I watched this; it was all over the shop. No, I mean maybe in 20 years' time, our grandchildren will look at us and say, "You idiot! How come you didn't get this film?"
Yeah,
I couldn't understand what this film is trying to say. The fall of Rome, but not really, and it just goes in so many directions without tying up anything by the end. It was painful. I very rarely tend to walk out of a film, but I was itching to walk out of this one. What about you, Buzz? Did you have any completely misfires?
Yes, for me, and it's been incredibly harsh, but I have to say it's small things like these with Cillian Murphy, and I'll tell you what, if there's one film that I could say, hand on my heart, that needed to be longer, the runtime on this is about an hour and a half. If this was a 2.5-hour film, this could have acclimatized into something really good. It's very atmospheric, and Cillian Murphy, as usual, just completely blows it out of the water. His face acts more than anything else. He doesn't need to talk. He's brilliant. But it didn't culminate in anything. And when the screen turns to black and the credits start going up and there is literally no sound, it's a really big feeling of disappointment. You feel like someone's come into your living room and turned off the TV. And it's not Sopranos-esque either, where it's leaving an ambiguous question at the end. It's just really disappointing. And I think me and you both watched the trailer at separate times and said, "Oh, that looks really good." Absolutely. It isn't, and it's not worth your time. But I have to say, if they led on to an ending which is worth it, then it would have been. But no, waste of time.
Yeah. I mean, it goes to show that one player, like in football, one player can't make the whole game. So it needs a little bit of a story, a little bit of cinematography, a little bit of music, and that was it. So, but yeah, it was a good film. It was a good year in film. I don't think it was as good as last year when we had so many good films coming out. But I think next year is looking promising. So I hope you have high hopes for next year, Buzz.
Yeah, you too. And Merry Christmas, Alex.
Indeed, Merry Christmas, man.